the next big thing is this one on our screen here. It's Tsatsu Tsikata to cross-examine Jean Mensah. Now, what questions are Mr. Tsikata going to ask of Madam Jean Mensah? We think we can make some guesses. And we've done our research, spoken to a few lawyers. And even if you look at the makeup of the case, if you look at the sociology, the legality of the case, and the phraseology that the petitioners have been using, we can make intelligent guesses as to what kind of questions they'll be asking. We know that the petitioner spent 30 of the 35 paragraphs dealing with the declaration that was made by Jean Mensah. We anticipate, therefore, that a lot of questions are going to be about the declaration. Those questions that were filed in interrogatories, the 12 of them, we think all 12 will find their way into the cross-examination. Because I think one of the judges said, or some lawyers said, that if your interrogatories are denied, you can pick them up in cross-examination. So we're going to share with you here soon now those questions that we think Mr. Tsikata will be asking. Then we're going to tell you the answers that we think Jean Mensah will be given. Where do we get Jean Mensah's answers from? We glean Jean Mensah's answers from the witness statement that she put up. Because in the witness statements, you will find that she's sort of responding to some of those interrogatories, even though the interrogatories were overruled. And so we'll show you in the next minute or so. It's 5 minutes past 10 o'clock. Let's go on and see. This is our beautiful design, which I really like. I mean, our graphic designer did an excellent job by putting this together. I wish they put on the screen so that you can see it directly, so that you can appreciate the artwork of it. Yeah, there it is. So you have the legal stuff in the middle. That's what the judges hit. You know, you have it in the middle over there, and then you have some flame. You know, at the back of it, like fire. There's going to be fire on the mountain. Fire is burning, etc., etc. And you have a photograph of Mr. Tsikata out there on the left-hand side in his legal wear. Then you have Madam Jean Mensah in the same beautiful kente cloth that she wore on the day of the declaration. That's really beautifully put together by our graphic designers. Congratulations to them. Okay, so let's get straight onto the matter now. Let's see what we think Mr. Tsikata is going to be asking. Now, this question we believe is going to come up. Mr. Tsikata is going to ask her that, was there a practice in previous presidential elections in the Fourth Republic of collated figures from the constituencies being received in quote and unquote, the strong room at the headquarters of the first respondent, being the electoral commissioner, in the presence of the agents of the candidates? Now, the question is, was there a previous presidential election that they were receiving this? I'm sure that the practice is yes. I guess that Jean Mensah will answer that question in the affirmative. Okay, now, next question is here. Was that practice described in paragraph 1 herein followed in respect of the 7th December election? So Mr. Tsikata is going to try and say that there was a practice that obtained during the other previous elections where polling agents of the presidential candidates are in the strong room, and then results comes through and they all see it. Now he's going to ask that, was that practice followed in this election? Jean Mensah is going to answer that, and Mr. Tsikata is going to go on and say as follows. It's the 7th December 2020 presidential election, the first time regional collation centers have been interposed between constituency collation centers and the headquarters of the first respondent. Of course, the answer is a very yes. I mean, we don't need Jean Mensah to answer this question. We all know that CI 127 introduced another level of collating presidential election results, being the regional collation centers. So polling station, constituency, regional collation centers, 16 regional collation centers all collect the results, and then they send it to the headquarters of the first respondent, being the Electoral Commission. That is what occurred in 2020's election. So the answer to this question is an obvious yes. Okay, another question. He's going to ask her, how were results transmitted from the constituency collation centers to the regional collation centers? Jean Mensah is going to most likely be confronted with this question, and I'm sure that she will answer it. Then here it says, how were results transmitted from the regional collation centers to the headquarters of the first respondent? That question is going to come up as well from Mr. Tsikata. I believe that Jean Mensah is going to answer it. Okay. Did the National Communication Authority facilitate in any way the transmission of the results to the headquarters of the first respondent? That's an interesting question that Mr. Tsikata is asking. I mean, for the first time, the NCA is mentioned, National Communication Authority. So if this question is allowed, it will be asked, and Jean Mensah is going to be asked to answer it. Okay. When did Mrs. Jean Mensah, now that's a question that already, I guess, has been answered by her statement, and we'll show you that. It says, when did Mrs. Jean Mensah, Jean Adukwei Mensa, the chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election, first realize there were errors in figures she had announced in her declaration of the 9th of December 2020? Now, this question has been asked. When did she first realize that there were errors? So I'm guessing that given that a lot of attention from the petitioner's case has been focused on the declaration of Mrs. Jean Mensah, the other day I asked in the studio the Honorable Dominic Ayini, I asked him what was on trial. Is it a declaration on radio and television of the 9th of December, or is it the gazetted instrument CI 135? Eventually he agreed that both were on trial. He said both were on trial. Okay, so let's move on. This question is going to be asked. Question 8, how did Jean Adukwei Mensa, the chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer for the presidential election, get to realize there were errors in the figures she had announced in her declaration of the 9th of December 2020? That question is also going to be asked. How did she find out that there were errors? And if the question is allowed, now I keep saying if the question is allowed, because in cross-examination, in this kind of high-tension cross-examination, you would anticipate that a lawyer for the Electoral Commission is going to have an eagle's ear, an eagle's eye. You already know that he has eagle's eye, don't you? He's going to have an eagle's ear, and I'm referring to the Honorable Justin Amenuvo. He's going to have an eagle eye watching and listening to the questions, and you should expect that every now and then he's going to invite the courts to overrule a question. Every now and then he's going to object to a question. So that's why I keep saying if the question is allowed, we should expect a lot of that. This cross-examination is the centerpiece of this election petition. As it was in the last election petition, the conversations between Philip Addison and Dr. Afarijan was at the centerpiece, at the core of the situation. In that one, we had another classic, which was Dr. Baumia and Mr. Tsatsu Tsikata. Here, I think we have a major classic. One of them is gone already. That's Akoto Ampao, Justin Amenuvo, and Asie Dunkatia, and we just showed you some of it. But this one, Jean Mensah and Tsatsu Tsikata, is going to be the major classic of this one. The whole case perhaps is going to, this is going to be an important classic. Okay, how did Mrs. Jean Adukwei Mensa, the chairperson of the first respondent and the returning officer of the presidential election, get to realize that there were errors in figures she had announced in the declaration of the 9th? Okay, in respect of the purported corrections, now that's very important, made to the figures in the declaration by the first respondent, was there any prior process of conferring with agents of the presidential candidates? Now we know that the NDC have made this point over and over again. They have said that when Jean Mensah found out that there were errors in the original broadcast, she ought to have called the political parties or the agents of the political parties when she intended to make changes, to make amendments to those figures that she had announced, because she had originally announced them in the presence of all the political parties. If she intended to make corrections, she should have called them again and discussed with them and made the corrections instead of issuing a press statement, which was the route that Jean Mensah chose to go by. So we expect that to come. We expect that to come in a very big way, and we should also expect some objections, I've already said, from the Electoral Commission's lawyers. Let's see what next. Did Jean Adukwei Mensa, the chairperson of the first respondent, present Form 13, the declaration of the presidential results form, to all the agents of the presidential candidates to sign? And if so, did all the agents sign? Now, this question is going to turn on that fundamental issue, which is Dr. Pesa White told the court, both in his witness statement and in his examination and cross-examination, told the court that at some point, he, Pesa White, and Rojo Metal Nunu were, as he put it, asked in quote, as he wrote, today he said instructed, were either asked or instructed by Jean Adukwei Mensa, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, to move out of the strong room, to go and confer with President John Dramani Mahama, the petitioner, the presidential candidate of the NDC, over matters that the two agents of the NDC candidate had raised. This question is going to turn around that matter. Dr. Pesa White and Rojo Metelnunu say that after they left to go and do this all-important conferring with President John Dramani Mahama, then Jean Adukwei Mensa organized the press conference and declared the results. So as far as they are concerned, they were not available in the room when the results were declared. They were not there. They had been asked to leave. We have asked the question on this program, that how is it that two agents, two adults, important people, in a strong room, representing John Dramani Mahama in an all-important matter like this, how is it that both of them will leave for the same cause? We have asked that question on this program for so many times, long before the petition was filed. As soon as the issue came up, Pesa White gave a press conference, we started asking the question. If one of you had to go and see President Mahama, one of you could have gone to see him, the other one should have remained in a strong room so that the candidate has a representation in the strong room, because those were the closing hours of the process. And in fact, Pesa White told the court that his phone had actually gone off because he didn't have his charger, and they had spent so many hours. So in the closing hours of the process, why do two men believe that both of them must leave to President Mahama and get information and come back? Certainly, we think one of them could have stayed. But we're not the courts. We don't know what the courts will do. We have no idea how the Supreme Court will treat this one. This is just a question that we asked, and we have been asking it a long time ago. Okay, so this is going to be important. Whether or not Jean Adukwei Mensa gave the document, the form, to the two gentlemen for them to sign, is going to be a very important part of that cross-examination that we're anticipating would be a classic. Okay, another one is this. On which date did Jean Adukwei Mensa, the chairperson of the first respondent, post a copy of the Form 13 at the head office of the first respondent? And as you know, there was a Supreme Court ruling, incidentally, Tony Akutuampa was part of that, where the Supreme Court ruled in 2015 or so, as part of the Abu Ramadan list of cases, that the valid results of every polling station should be pasted at the polling station. And so anyone who is able to do a calculation of 38,000 polling stations of results collated from all over the polling stations, of those results that had been pasted, that person should be able to determine the total results of the presidential election. But in the case of the EC, I believe that in following from that trajectory, the Electoral Commission was asked to paste the form at the headquarters of the EC. This question that was found its way into the interrogatories, we believe that Mr. Tsikata is going to ask that question of Jean Mensah, that when did she post it? So really, everyone should see that. Okay, last one. Did the first respondent record any discrepancies which were occasioned by computational and mathematical errors in the course of the collation of the results? Well, this question is obvious, because the Electoral Commission had already admitted some errors, and in the process they had also issued a press statement to make some corrections. So quite clearly, this question is connected to that. We are not sure if it's allowed how Jean Mensah will answer the question. Let's go, however, now and look at some of the things that Jean Mensah has already written here, witness statement. It will give us an idea of her posturing and how she intends to deal with these questions that she should anticipate are going to come from Mr. Tsikata. She's the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and the sole single returning officer for the presidential election. So she's very important in this matter. Remember that she's also a lawyer by training. Remember that Jean Mensah, apart from IEA, is also a lawyer by training. Okay. She was called to the bar in Ghana many years ago. So now let's look at the things that Jean Mensah is going to say. Now this is a statement that she's put up, which is already in the court, and I guess that she's going to stick to this. By and large, Jean Mensah is going to stick to this. She says, my name is Jean Adukwei Mensa, number E1 blah blah Avenue Ridge, Accra, in the Greater Accra region of the Republic of Ghana, given her address. Okay, it goes on to say that I am the chairperson of the respondent and the returning officer for the 7th December 2020 presidential election. Nice, beautiful. Unless otherwise indicated, I say in this witness statement is from my own knowledge, from events leading to the filing of this petition, and other matters that have come about after the filing of this petition. Very strongly worded. And you can see Jean Mensah's posturing here. If you look at her paragraph 2, her posturing is that, look, I don't have anything to hide. I am here to speak the truth. I am the electoral commissioner. I'm the chairperson. I did the election. And I'm here to talk about everything from my own knowledge. After the filing of this petition, all the things that have been going on, I've heard everything, I've read everything, and I have answers for everything. That's the posturing that she's giving here. A very confident woman who is prepared to mount the witness box and deal with it. Let's see more what she says. Okay, in 3, she says, the Public Election Regulation, CI 127, which regulated 7 December 2020's elections, laid out a 4-stage procedure for the collation of the presidential election results, from the polling station all the way up to the head office of the commission of the first respondent, where the returning officer is stationed. You can still see the posturing of Jean Mensah. She's saying that, look, whatever I did was done pursuant to law. Full stop. Anything that happened throughout the election was pursuant to law. It was pursuant to a law that was already known by everyone. It's called CI 127. And that CI 127 gave a 4-stage process of how the elections are going to be determined. From polling station to this to that, up to the headquarters where I was. Very straightforward. That's the posturing that she's going to, she's telling us that is going to be her posturing when she mounts the witness box, whether it's against Tsatsu Tsikata, whether it's against XYZ. This is going to be Jean Mensah's posturing. Straight to the point. I have nothing to hide. I'm going to deal with this. Okay. Let's move on. Number 4, it says, at all 4 stages, the summary of the results obtained by the candidates are collated and recorded on Form 8B. Statement of poll and polling station results. Form 10, presidential election results, summary sheet. Form 12, presidential election regional results, summary sheet. And Form 13, presidential results declaration form, respectively. Attached as Exhibits 1, 2, 3, and 4 are samples of the respective summary sheets. We can go on. Let's move on. But Jean Mensah is showing a lot of confidence. The candidates or their agents present are required by law to sign each of the forms. Candidates or their agents who fail to refuse to sign the forms are provided with the opportunity to state reasons for their refusal to sign on the forms. This paragraph 5 is very, very important. If you look at what happened with the Pesa White's cross-examination, what happened with the Adom-Otchere one, this answer provided by Jean Mensah in her witness statement, and I have to repeat that I'm guessing that she's going to stay with the witness statement. The posturing here is that, look, we have provided forms. People who had disagreements with the forms, they were provided with a sheet of why they disagreed. So then, those who say they disagree, the question then for them will be, what did you write on the form? On 8th December, on 9th December, when you were in the room, forms were provided. You disagree. What did you write on it? What is the substance of your disagreement? What is the narration of your disagreement? What did you put out on the form? Today, during the Pesa White cross-examination, you could see that he raised the paper and told their lordships that there was no space to write something like that. That's going to come up big when Jean Mensah and Tsatsu Tsikata speak. Because Jean Mensah is saying that, look, there was a form. You don't like it, you write it. So what should be on trial, as far as this cross-examination is concerned, is that the concerns that were raised by those who were unhappy, what happened to those concerns? But first of all, what were the concerns? How were they raised? Where is the paper? Where is the document upon which the concerns were raised? That's going to be a big deal in that cross-examination coming up. Number 6, she says, the officers in charge at each of these stages provided a duplicate carbon copy of the summary sheets referred to above to each candidate or their agent present. Again, Jean Mensah is talking about transparency. I have nothing to hide. And you could see that running through everything she says. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to hide. She's talking about transparency here, that look, for each of the summary sheets, a duplicate copy was provided and given to your people, the candidate or his agent. It brings us back to the Adom-Otchere controversy. If you have all these summary sheets, then from your summary sheet, what did John Dramani Mahama get? Adom-Otchere says, I don't know, I don't have it. I didn't bring it to court. Okay, you have the duplicates of the summary sheet. From the duplicates of the summary sheet that was given to you, what did Nana Akufo-Addo get? What was attributed to Nana Akufo-Addo? What did you see that he got? Adom-Otchere says, I don't know, I didn't bring it. Okay. From all the carbon copy, photocopy of the duplicate that was given to you, what was, by your calculation, the total valid votes cast? Asidun Ketia says, I don't know. I didn't bring it. So this is going to be important in the conversation between Jean Mensah and Mr. Tsikata. This is going to be very, very important. This is in 6. Okay, let's move on. 7. The results of the 7th December 2020 presidential elections were collated in the chronological order outlined above as mandated by law, leading to the announcement of the results as captured on Form 13 on the 9th of December 2020. See Exhibit 4 above. More of transparency. Jean Mensah is going to play big on transparency. She's going to play really big on transparency during this cross-examination. She's going to say, I have nothing to hide. Everything was transparent. Everything was above board. Everybody saw everything. So let's lead ourselves now to the declaration that was made, which had to be corrected. You'll see what she says about it. And there's a witness statement that's already gone into the court. It's not a secret. It's a statement that the court already has. All the lawyers have it. Okay, let's move on to number 8. It says, as shown in Form 13, Exhibit 4 above, the second respondent obtained 6,730,413. Second respondent being Nana Adukwei Mensa, by the way. He obtained 6,730,413 of the valid votes, while the petitioner, who had the second highest valid vote, obtained 6,214,889 of the total valid votes, which was 13 million. Now, this is the total valid votes she's referring to. It was 13,121,111. Okay. So here in her paragraph 8, Jean Mensah is still talking about transparency, but is saying to the NDC, look, you lost the election. That's what she's saying. She's saying that you have lost this election. You did not win the election. The petitioner did not win the election. She says that from the Form 13 that I've showed you, she's telling the court, from the Form 13 that I've showed you, the second respondent obtained 6 million. You obtained this. The valid votes cast was that. You lost this election. That's all she's saying. Let's move on and see. In 9, she says, I say that with these figures, the calculations showed that the second respondent had obtained more than 50% of the valid votes. It was also clear that whatever results were outstanding at the time could not mathematically change the more than 50% of the valid votes as obtained by the second respondent. Okay, more to speak. And people will wonder why here she's saying 50% of the valid votes and not giving you the 51 whatever that Adukwei get. And I'll tell you the reason why. What Jean Mensah is saying here in paragraph 9 is that to the petitioner, he's saying to the petitioner that, look here, I, as the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, the returning officer for the presidential elections, I have adequately and sufficiently discharged my obligations in Article 63. That's what she's saying. Because the obligations set out in Article 63 of the 1992 Constitution is to the effect that the candidate who wins 50% plus 1 wins the election. And Jean Mensah has been accused by the NDC that she did not adequately discharge the obligation of Article 63, and therefore, I believe it's 63.9, and therefore, there should be a rerun of the election. What she's saying in her paragraph 9 is that I have substantially discharged adequately the obligations of 63. The second respondent obtained more than 50% of the votes, and I have declared him the winner of the election. Let's move on. 10, she says, I further say that it was on this basis that the results of the 7th December 2020 presidential election was declared on the 9th of December. Now we're coming close to what the NDC would like to hear. Okay, 11, she says, I also say, and this is important, that in announcing the figures, the total number of valid votes cast being 13 million, total number of votes cast. Now, this is the controversial one. Let's read it again from line 1, paragraph 11. Jean Mensah says, I say also that in announcing the figures, the total number of votes cast being 13,434,574. Now, note here, total number of votes cast. Let's get an understanding of that. So, the issue is, when we finish the election, there is the total number of votes cast, which is all the votes that were cast On that day, your votes, my vote, her vote, his vote, red people's vote, black people, NDC people's votes, MPP votes, Ashanti votes, Northern Region votes, Volta votes, Tamale vote, female vote, male vote. Yeah, We don't have LGBT in Ghana, so I can't say that. So female votes, male votes, all of that put together. Politicians' votes, non-politicians' votes, President's votes, president wives' votes, everybody's vote, everybody's vote. That's the total number of votes cast. However, it's not all the votes that's cast on the day are valid votes, because ballots get spoiled, people don't vote properly, double stamp printing, all of that. So, the total number of votes cast minus the rejected ballots is, out of that equation, you get the valid votes cast. So with that understanding, let's get back to Jean Mensah's paragraph 11. Now she says, I also say that in announcing the figures, the total number of votes cast, which is everybody's votes, being 13,434,574, was inadvertently announced as the total valid votes cast. This is the whole big matter. This is the situation that the petitioner seems to be hanging his case on. The inadvertent reference to total votes cast as valid votes cast on the occasion of the 9th of December during the live radio and television broadcast. This one seems to be the whole basis on which this petition is grounded. That's the big story. If you look at the petition, it's grounded on this one. So let's continue and see what Jean Mensah says. She says she inadvertently announced as total votes cast. The total valid votes cast as captured on Form 13 was actually, this is the correct figure now, 13,121,111, which represents the total valid votes obtained by all the candidates. Indeed, a tabulation of all the valid votes obtained by all 12 candidates as declared by the first respondent on December 9th, 2020, and captured on Form 13 adds up to 13,121,000. So Jean Mensah is saying that whereas there was an inadvertent reference to total valid votes cast to a figure called 13,434,000, even if you add all the figures that she attributed to the candidates, you will come to 13,121,000 and not 13,434,000. And so 13,434,000, which is the total votes cast without the word valid, total votes cast was inadvertently referred to as a total valid votes cast. This is what she's admitting as the error that she made on the 9th of December. Let's move on. 12, she says that, I also say that Form 13 has a total number of votes cast as 13 million, blah, blah, blah. Form 13 was signed by 8 agents of the candidates who were present at the time of the completion of the form. Let's move on. 13 says, I say that the inadvertence, which did not affect the constitutional threshold of the candidates, was noticed the next day. You remember that there's a question in the interrogatory that says that when did she realize that she had made errors, and how did she realize that she had made errors? She appears to be answering that question here. She says, I say that the inadvertence which did not affect the constitutional threshold of the candidates was noticed the next day and corrected through a press release, which is one of the first respondents' mediums of communicating with the general public. Again, remember that Jean Mensah was asked, is being asked in the interrogatories, if it has succeeded, that why did she not call a press conference and make the correction? She's saying that she made the press conference, she made the correction in a press statement, which is one of the usual mediums of communication that the Electoral Commission employs or applies to communicate to the general public. So she said that the said press release was published on the official website and social media pages of the first respondent, and its authenticity has never been denied by the first respondent, attached and marked at Exhibit 5. Okay, so what Jean Mensah is saying is that don't make too much, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. on this issue of error. Because after the error, the next day, we issued a press statement. And that press statement, we have not changed it. Because you know that sometimes we hear from the NDC that the correction has been corrected, the corrected correction. She's arguing forcefully here in paragraph 13 that, listen, we did not change anything after we issued the press statement. It is on the website. It's probably still on the website. Let's move on very quickly as we're running out of time. 14 says, I further say that the declaration on the 9th December was made without the results of the Techiman South constituency, which had a total of 128 registered voters. This declaration was made on the basis that even if the total votes in the said constituency, being 128, were allocated to the candidate with the second highest vote, being President Mahama, it will not change the more than 50% of the valid votes obtained by the second respondent. The second respondent, under that circumstances, would have obtained 50.799 of the valid votes cast. We know about this Techiman South issue. We've gone back and forth with it. She's repeating the argument that, look, even if I add Techiman South and give it to President Mahama, Nana Akufo-Addo will get 50.7, which goes beyond the threshold of Article 63 of the 1992 Constitution. He says, I further say that Techiman South constituency elections summary sheet since has been released. Prior to the institution of this action herein, the petitioner obtained 52,000 valid votes, and President Akufo-Addo obtained 46,000 of the valid votes. A copy is attached. So she's saying that, okay, even if Techiman South is the concern for you, we've been making a lot of noise about Techiman South, even if that's a concern, now we have Techiman South's result. I have added it to the results. You still lose the election. That's what Jean Mensah is saying. He says, you can say everything you want to say about Techiman South. You can make all the analysis about Techiman South. As far as 9th December was concerned, I didn't have Techiman South. I said, and I still affirm, that even if on the 9th December I added all of the 128 of Techiman South to you, you will still have lost the election, Mr. Petitioner. Now, Jean Mensah says that, okay, finally, I have Techiman South. Before you went to court, I have Techiman South. You got 50,000. Akufo-Addo got 46,000. I have imputed all that. Mr. Petitioner, you lost the election. That's what Jean Mensah is saying. Okay. So it comes here, 16 says, I say the presidential election results summary sheet from Techiman South has vindicated the mathematics based on which the results was declared on the 9th of December. When the figure on Form 10 of Techiman South constituency above are added to the existing votes obtained by the candidates, the second respondent obtained 6,777 votes, while the petitioner obtained 6,266 votes, and that brings the total valid votes cast now to 13,220,547. With Techiman South now added, the final valid votes cast changes. The figures also change. Akufo-Addo has 46,000 more, so it comes to 6.77. President Mahama has 50,000 more. It comes to 6.266. President Mahama still loses, according to the statement of Jean Mensah. Okay. She says, I say with these and actual figures, the second respondent obtained 51.295%, which meets the more than 50% threshold in Article 63.3. I said it was 63.9, it's 63.3 of the 1992 Constitution. So that's a beautifully crafted document by Jean Mensah. But of course, the court will make their own determination. But this is it. So Jean Mensah says, okay, at the end of the day, I finished everything. Everything is done. Everything is done. You are done. Everything is sorted. This is what you get. You get 51.295 for Nana Akufo-Addo, and he's the winner of the election according to Article 63.3. I have discharged my obligation. I had nothing to hide. This is the story. It's over. Okay. So she says, I deny that the first respondent padded the votes in favor of the second respondent as alleged by the petitioner. She says, you've heard that story about votes padding 5,000 something, 4,000 something, as was said in court yesterday or so. She says she denies that. No votes were padded, no votes were added to anyone. Okay, let's move on. And he says that, I say that the petitioner is not entitled. So this is the last one. This is Jean Mensah. After all what she says, she's telling the court that the petitioner, President Mahama, is not entitled to the reliefs claim. The reliefs claimed here. What is President Mahama asking for? He's asking for a rerun of the presidential election between himself and Nana Akufo-Addo. Jean Mensah says, based on everything that she said, the petitioner, President Mahama, does not deserve anything that he's asking for. And she says finally that I believe that the facts stated in this witness statement are true, that the statements contained in paragraph 1 to 20 of the witness statements are true. So this is an affirmation. I, Jean Adukwei Mensa, do hereby make this statement of truth in verification of my witness statement as follows, that the statements contained in paragraph 1 to 20 that we have gone through, it took us how long to go through? Some 20 minutes or so to run through all that, are true. What's the time now? It's getting to 10:40. And this has been our presentation from the election petition. What you need to watch out tomorrow from 9 o'clock or so, the court will begin sitting. What you need to watch out for is the motion that has been presented by Mr. Tsikata is going to be argued for and against. The court will make a decision. If they're able to finish that in the first half of the day and the motion succeeds, then they will proceed to do the inspection. We don't know whether the Electoral Commission will be ready with the documents for inspection if the motion were to succeed. If the motion were to fail, then that will end the process. But you have to understand that if the motion is argued in the court of first instance and it fails, Mr. Tsikata is able to ask for a review of the motion, and a date will have to be set for the motion to be heard again on a review application. Now, we don't know how all of that will pan out, but within the next day or two, or at least by the end of the week, this cross-examination between Jean Adukwei Mensa and Tsatsu Tsikata will occur. We are anticipating it and looking forward to it.